Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Hatha Yoga Mama podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about my why and what brought me to the path of yoga and meditation and those being such prominent tools in my life. So my search for truth, as I call it, started when I was very young. When I started when I was 8 years old, and my mother suddenly passed away. It was very unexpected for all of us, and it was obviously a very heart tearing and wrecking situation that affected myself and plenty of other people, but my father and brother included, for a very long time, and some would argue to this day. But um, anyway, that's where I started my quest, was in this space of questioning what reality was, what truth was, and what we were all doing here, really. Like, why were we here? Because up until that point, it was a fairly Christian household. Um, we like prayed before eating dinner and things. Like, my mom was raised Catholic. She was one of 9 kids, so obviously a Catholic family. And then my father, his father, my grandfather, whom I never met, he passed away before I was born. Um, he was a Lutheran pastor. Um, and so, yeah, so they were Lutheran, obviously. And, um, and so, yeah, it was basically just like my parents didn't take us to church or anything like that, except on like holidays and whatnot. But they were mostly just taught us the ropes, like God, Jesus, heaven and hell, and kind of left a lot of the wild stuff, I guess, like out. And they were just like, you'll figure it out as you get older. You'll figure out your own path and blah, blah, blah. And so then when I was very young, yeah, I was at like 8 years old, have no idea what the world is. And then this suddenly happens and my world flips upside down suddenly. I was like, this isn't right. She was a lovely human in all the ways, and she did not deserve that. So like, why would that happen? If there is a God, like what was that purpose? And I was very confused and very conflicted for a long time about that. I just felt that she was such a great person. She should have been able to live a longer, more fulfilled life, even though she did live a very fulfilling life up until then. Radiant human, angel of a human. But yeah, I just felt like it should have been longer. Anyway, so it really led to me turning away from Christianity at a very young age and saying like, your math doesn't add up, because if you are just a good person and good things happen to you and you go to heaven, like, but she was a great person and like a terrible thing happened to her, and um what the hell, where does this does not compute. And so I was like coming from a very like sad, jaded, child like mindset. Obviously I was a child, but anyway, so that's kind of where I was coming from. And so I really for a while rejected religion for the longest time, um and was just like, nope, it's not even really a thing, that can't even be true. Got into my adolescent and teenage years and really was like, it's not a thing, da da da. But also, that wasn't really, that place didn't feel lovely for me. And so I was kind of, yeah, just on the search for more. Like, what is the truth? What are we doing here? What is this place? And like, where is the beauty? Like, what's going on here? And how can I find this like peace, this inner peace within myself? Um, that I felt that I had lost with the passing of my mother. And so again, just kind of searching these places, and obviously lots of alcohol use and such in my teen years, and drug use, and whatever, just like fun kid stuff. But through that, also dabbled in psychedelics, which were actually a huge proponent. And I finally was like, oh my God, this is wild. And I had lots and lots of really profound experiences with various psychedelics since then. But that being said, I kind of came across like the whole like Timothy Leary culture and saw like he like had, been Ram Dass, if you're familiar with him, um, basically just, yeah, was preaching meditation and we are all one and da da da. I'm like, who is this dude? He's taking acid. I like that. Let's do it. And so I kind of started looking at, like, I didn't know much about him, but I did know that he had studied like some like Eastern philosophy and stuff. So I started to kind of look into that. And so, this is like a long time ago, but when I was, 15, 16, I ended up going to a Barnes and Noble, going to the Eastern philosophy area, walking around there, looking for something, anything that like maybe I would want to read and get something out of. And I ended up finding a book called The Buddha Said, and it was by Osho. And that book completely changed my life. And so if you have not read that, I highly, highly recommend it. And I have a lot of other Osho books, but like this one hits hard. Like the other ones, I'm like, meh. Like, yeah, there's awesome nuggets in there, in certain books of his, but some of them I'm just like, meh, it's okay. I could take it or leave it. But The Buddha Said is really a great book, and he basically just takes and breaks down a lot of what the Buddha said. And so this really cracked open my mind into this idea of Buddhism and meditation and this oneness and that the non-attachment, and in the non-attachment there is no suffering, because if you're only suffering if you're attached. And I felt that to my bones, because I was suffering every day because I was attached to my mother and I had the loss of my mother, and so I felt this suffering. And so I needed to, have this more non-attachment, and it really shifted my entire mental space. And I was like, whoa. And I was just kind of starting to dabble with this in my own small, tiny Midwestern town while I'm going to high school in a place that was literally nicknamed like Cow Pie High. So woot woot. Anyway, so yeah, like needless to say, Buddhism, Eastern philosophy, religion, all that kind of stuff was like not talked about at all. Was not a thing, was not a buzzword. And honestly, like most of the people, if they like even saw us, like my family, like my mom's family was like very judgy. Sorry, love them all. But they're like, oh my God, she lost Jesus, like blah, blah, blah. She needs to be saved. And it's like, she's like doing demonic things by like meditating. And it's like, oh my God, people, okay, calm down, calm down. Because at the end of the day, like Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad and all of the prophets were literally speaking of the same thing, of this universal consciousness, of this universal oneness that is within all of us, and how we are all energy and we just manifest our own lives, and our own needs, and our own even nightmares sometimes, just based off of our own mental patterns and such. And I mean, I've I studied some like world religions and such in college, and I just really loved seeing that overarching theme throughout everything. And I also really love Hinduism, simply because they really personify each like kind of characteristic that we can all have within ourselves, but in a very strong personified version that you can really like kind of step into, call upon, and like use that energy. And I think that's like one of the best ways to possibly use this energy is like you can then like see, visualize, like feel, touch, like see this God helping you, like I think that is a great thing. Those are all great tools. That being said, nobody deserves to like be at war or dying over semantics. Like, and I'm not trying to make light of huge tragedies. I am just saying that when we're all talking about like oneness and, what's the highest good for us all, like we can all agree that that's like love. And, like in Buddhism, it's, you can either work out of love or you can work out of fear. Those are literally the only two places you can be operating out of. And it's one or the other. And it's quite apparent when it's that way of, are you actually doing this out of love or are you doing this out of fear of another outcome? And that was my big problem that was pushed with Christianity, was like, oh, be good and it's good, or be bad and you'll be punished forever. Like, and it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I don't need to have eternal hell dangled over my head in order to make positive and loving decisions. Like, I just don't appreciate that. And I feel like if you do need that dangled over your head to make loving and conscious decisions, you're probably like not doing the best in your mental space. Like, you probably need some help, and probably, yeah, should work on that. Like, instead of like damning others. So anyway, that's like my hot take on religion. I'm sorry. But I don't know why I'm apologizing, but either way. Um so really, like, what had then led me into yoga was meditation, was finding all of these things, and then and starting my own personal meditation practice at a really young age, just literally self-taught and whatever I could find in various books. And it wasn't until I was moved out of that small town and I moved into a larger city in Michigan, where I was going to art school, and that is where I started finding actual yoga classes, which is a whole other story, because I found that through a Buddhist Zen center temple, and it was amazing. And anyway, yeah, so really, well, I guess that really comes into the full circle story of like, yeah, then I went to college and I was in downtown Grand Rapids a lot, and I was walking by this um down a block one day, and like there was just this like sign on the window. It's like Zen Buddhist temple. I'm like, oh no shit! Like, here's a like a temple. What? Like, I didn't even know this existed, let alone in Michigan. Like, this is crazy in my mind. And this was like 2011. Um and so obviously when I got home, I like looked it up and like saw their schedule, da da da. And I started like I went and I attended one of their Sunday services, and it was just amazing. It was just a little bit of a Buddha Dharma talk and some meditation and chit chat with people afterwards and go about your ways. And it was just such a lovely atmosphere. And don't get me wrong, I had been to some nice churches of Christian faith and such too, but I had never seen such a like beautiful service and situation and just energy and all of the things. It's just a very special, super special situation that I was just so honored to be a part of. And then it was going there that I saw that they offered yoga classes. Now, mind you, I was a art student. I had said that I went there to go to Kendall Art School for illustration, and I wanted to be a children's book illustrator and or animator, which we'll see. We'll see on some of those. Anyway, so I was an art school student or art college student, whatever. Needless to say, I was broke as shit. I was so poor. I like could hardly even afford to be there and pay for like all the art supplies and everything. I remember spending so much money on art supplies and being like, well, I guess I have like $32 to eat for the next like 2 weeks. This is great. It was wild. Anyway, and so needless to say, I did not have any money to go to like a $20 yoga class. It was just not going to happen. But however, I did notice on the bottom of the schedule, it said, like, if payment is ever an issue, like, I don't want this to be a something that, closes this bridge for you. And I'm always open to bartering. Send me a personal email. And I love this woman to death. She's amazing. Her name is Stephanie Squibb. She is a Buddhist monk in Grand Rapids. You can practice with her. She's amazing. Look her up. I love her to death. And so I reached out to her and I'm like, hey, so I'd love to come to your class. I have no money to give you, but I will barter however sounds good to you. Like, what's up? And she's like, if you just want to like sweep and clean like the studio floors after class, like, you're good. And I was like, awesome. I will totally do that. Because at the time I was working at the school at Kendall as a janitor. And so I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I do that all the time anyway. And so I, so I started going to her classes, and she's an Ashtanga yogi, and she was not yet a Buddhist monk at this time, but she was like well on her way. But she she was the first person to teach me, one, at all in person, and two, the connection of the breath and the body while you're moving in yoga. And that, like, learning the breathing, like, just to breathe with your movements and breathe through your sun salutations and take your inhale, exhales, all these things in this beautiful ballet of mind, body, soul, breath. It's just like fucking amazing. I don't know. She taught me that, and that's where I first experienced, this whole yoga buzz, yoga high, this full on body, mind, soul connection where you're just like, you feel so grounded and so like here and present that like things are just like even sharper, and like weird things happen. By weird, I just mean like you're just aligned to where like the universe just really responds to you and in really positive ways. And it's just like mind blowing. And so I was like, what is this voodoo magic? Like, I'm kidding. It's not voodoo, but I mean, it is fucking magic. I believe in magic. It's a thing. Like, we are magic. This whole fucking world's pretty magical. If you ask me, electricity is magic. Okay. So anyway, so I started going to these yoga classes with her, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And we'd do meditation and stuff, and it was all very Buddhist centered, and it was just incredible. And like my fellow classmates were like a 75-year-old man named Tom, who like I loved and ended up teaching later on in life, which was so fun. Full circle moments. And just met some other really great friends. My friend Charlotte, she's also a yoga teacher. She's amazing. And just, yeah, a few other really great people through those classes. And it was there that I was like, whoa, like this is something. Like, I do love art, and I love illustration, and I love painting, and I love all of those things. However, one, I was already having trouble figuring out how I was going to afford the next 3 years at this school. And two, I was finding that I was like way more interested in this whole, finding out the science and the why behind this body movement, breathing, meditation stuff that was making me feel amazing, better than I had in my entire life, like since childhood, and I was just like, this is something, I have to chase this. Like, I have to go down this path. And so I continued to practice with Stephanie and do her meditation classes as well. And eventually I was like, I need to learn more. And so I started, of course, like it just all went back to like the Buddha said and all these books and stuff I'd read. And I was like, I need to go to India. Like, I have to go to India and learn this, like from the places where like Buddha was. Like, I'm not like, I just have to go. But again, I was a poor art student who like could hardly figure out life day to day, let alone like how am I gonna just do that? And hint, I did it and more, and it was amazing. But that's a story for another day. But that really got me on the path to wanting to become a teacher, wanting to learn as much as I possibly could about these practices. Not only so that I could heal myself and teach myself all of these things so that I could live my best life possible, but because I knew I could also then help others do the same, because I knew I wasn't an anomaly. I knew I was not the only human who was feeling those ways, where yoga and breathing and meditation all not only helped but healed me, and then also allows me to maintain health. And no, like, we're not all perfect and whatnot, but you can then, like, you can catch it so much faster. You can see it happening and see these human things play out and your own egos and all of this stuff, and you can catch it sooner, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is not actually in alignment with what I'm trying and what I'm doing here. And so, and that's useful for literally anybody. I think that's it's just a wonderful tool to really tune in to your own and the deeper knowing of what is, and truth and all of those things. So, yeah, I guess long and short of it, that is my truth seeker story of what brought me to want to become a yoga teacher. So I hope that you enjoyed that and that wasn't too long and rambly. I have no idea what this is all going for, but I'm glad you stuck around for the end. Thank you, friend, and I will be back soon to tell the manifesting story of trip number 1 to India. So I will talk to you soon, friends. Bye-bye.